Veteran is in custody this morning after police say he lit a fire and set off fireworks outside a Manhattan federal building, allegedly trying to target ICE. The 43-year-old is also accused of waving a rifle at locals passing by the building, which houses immigration officers and officials. Police quickly tackling the suspect and recovering his bag, which they say contained the following: multiple axes, knives, a machete, and what appear to be 2 pellet guns, along with a manifesto. Border Czar Tom Homan sounding the alarm over the increased threats to ICE agents, even getting emotional over the dangers facing his agency.
ICE agents are mom and dads too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day to do this job. And it's just not attacking the ICE agents, attacking their spouses and children, and no one knows that better than me. I can't even go get a quart of milk at a grocery store without a security detail. Why? Because I'm enforcing laws in this country. It's pathetic and it's disgusting.
Meantime, the State Department is warning that left-wing groups with ties to Cuba are planning nationwide actions outside U.S. military bases and ICE facilities if U.S. forces were to threaten or attack Cuba. Secretary of State Marco Rubio posting on X, quote, "For more than 6 decades, the Cuban regime has been the leading sponsor of radical leftism and third worldism in the United States. The State Department is exposing the full history of Cuban espionage and subversion in our country. The American people deserve to know."
President Trump is pushing back against NYC Mayor Zohran Mamdani's vow to arrest the Israeli prime minister when he arrives for the UN General Assembly in September. The commander-in-chief posting in part, quote, "Benjamin Netanyahu will not be arrested in any way, shape, or form while in the United States of America." That response comes after Mamdani doubled down on his promise to arrest the prime minister over his alleged crimes against humanity.
When it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, we're speaking about someone who's the subject of an international criminal court arrest warrant. My point is that if someone is charged with a warrant by the International Criminal Court for these kinds of crimes, that's something I believe that should be honored, and I've also said that we will follow our local laws.
The International Criminal Court issued a warrant for Netanyahu in late 2024, accusing him of war crimes in Gaza following the October 7th attacks in Israel.
What's up, my people? How we be doing? Oh, man. We told you to keep your head on a swivel. We told you to watch out. These libtards are getting dangerous. We didn't know this. We announced this in 2024. We were like, there's no such thing as a free ride, man. You think they're going to give up power easily? Do you think that this 100-year, starting with Woodrow Wilson, really march towards communism? Woodrow Wilson was a communist. FDR was a communist. FDR, probably the worst president in American history, maybe one of the worst presidents in American history. You think that this massive march towards some type of centralized, globalist, unified crash down on all of our heads and freedoms is going to be given up by these people freely? You think they're not going to do it? You think they're not going to fight back? They fought in blood in order to get to this point. They fought and they killed 100 million people in the last century in order to get to a level where they could have communists throughout our government, throughout our institutions, throughout our society, pulling the levers of power, taking the capital that they made in the free market and pumping it back in like Neville Singham does, like George Soros does. Do you think that they were going to just give this up? No, there's going to be blood in the streets. There's always blood in the streets. And I hate it. And I'm looking here at what's happening in the country, and I'm saying, we got to prepare. It's going to get worse. You heard it there. Like the moment that you start rattling the cage of Cuba, and Venezuela was bad enough, the moment that you uproot the final and deepest root of communism in our hemisphere, and you starve them of their supply chains, then you are going to get a violent revolution. And they're not going to be able, of course, to do anything other than lash out and cause damage, but that's what we've been seeing. And they're going to do it. I'm telling you, they're ready for Cuba. This is what we heard yesterday from Marco Rubio. They're softening the target. They're preparing the American people for what's about to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, a wild show today. They're not going to give it up freely. They've been working so hard on this operation. They did so much, all the way to like getting Barack Obama in, then Joe Biden, then like it doesn't matter which candidate, the machine is still going to work. Like all the infrastructure behind the scenes is still going to manifest. It's still going to grind. These things take generations to build. The communist mechanisms are now exposed in our society. The institutions are now exposed. They're getting defunded. They're getting starved. They're getting attacked. They're getting deported. And it's getting perilous for them. And so keep your head on a swivel. Today is Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. Commie terrorists lights federal building on fire and then uses an explosive to try and kill in a mass slaughter federal agents. We're going to talk through the bloodthirsty terrorism that happened on the streets of New York. It was like a blip in the news cycle because libs don't want to cover this because they're the one who created this. Because they secretly support it. It was supposed to be much deadlier yesterday in New York. It's very important to look through the anatomy of what happened. Cuba-linked groups are going to plan nationwide attacks on U.S. bases, ICE facilities, and State Department says. And Senator Eric Schmidt will join us soon, along with Representative Riley Moore. And Kelley Paul, Rand Paul's wife, has something exciting to talk about. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Go gold, ladies and gentlemen. Go gold. Make sure that you are locked and loaded. We talk about it a lot. Advantage Gold is our precious metals partner. They secure the future for you, your family. They do so by making sure that you're invested in something that's withheld its value for all time. Gold right now is at a very, very attractive rate. You should consider diversifying your portfolio today. This is why I trust Advantage Gold. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545. Get your free gold investment kit today. Learn a simple IRS-approved way to move your 401k or IRA into a physical gold tax penalty-free. Text Benny to 85545 today. Okay, let's hop on over here, shall we, to what happened yesterday in New York. And I want to begin by breaking down what happened and then what could have happened. So you can see.
Oh my God!
Here's the libtard. This is an anti-ICE protester.
Get away!
That goes and sets, and this video jumps around. Let me show you the full attack, okay? So this is at the Federal Building in New York, 26 Federal Plaza in New York City. This is the building that houses counterterrorism, ICE facilities, FBI. So there's no less than 1,000 federal agents that work out of this building every single day, maybe even more. So what they do is they pour gasoline, which looks like gasoline and some type of incendiaries, right? So you have maybe like other Molotov cocktails, and they pour this flammable liquid on the ground. By the way, that's like $500 worth of gas right there, bro. That's a lot of gas. Okay, I don't like that gas prices are that high, but seriously, we need to cut welfare. Okay, how's this person affording that much gas? Let's start with that. What a flex. I mean, what a huge flex. You have that much gas? Bro, you must be loaded.
Guys, oh my God.
Gallows humor. Okay, so they light the building ablaze, all right? This is the entry to the building. You can see the fire burns for quite a while. Now it is a mature fire. And then they throw an incendiary into the fire. They're immediately apprehended after that. But this has been about a minute. And then federal employees walk by as the incendiary explodes. It looks like a firework. I don't think we have word on exactly what it was. It could have been a homemade bomb. Now, not too long ago, the reason why we should take this kind of stuff extremely seriously is that not too long ago, 2 Muslim jihadists whose parents were brought over here in our wonderful airlift, everyone from the third world, bring over every Syrian. We totally have magic dirt. They're just to stop being terrorists as soon as they get in American soil. No, that's not what happened. This just happened in New York. Like, we've forgotten about this. This just happened in New York where 2 jar bombs. So this is a glass jar that is filled with nails and screws and rusty bolts. The jihadists went, and there was a free speech event going on in New York. You can see some of the rusty nails right there. Look at that nail. The point of these bombs is that they explode and they shoot shrapnel in every direction and kill everyone, including the counter-protesters to the free speech protest. You can see this lovely individual, your lovely neighborhood jihadists that are dumbass globalist leaders have brought into this country. There we go. He literally yells Allahu Akbar, and he uses some soy cuck leftard who's sitting there chanting, by the way, he's screaming through his megaphone that we are actually the peaceful party and that we are here for peace. And then the jihadist uses his shoulder to launch a bomb from. A perfect metaphor for the modern left. A perfect metaphor for what's happening. The modern left, the soy cuck communist whites of the modern left, they're not having children. They're cutting their own balls off. They're not procreating. They have no interest in doing anything other than screaming at us who are like making families and actually productive in society, but sitting there lecturing and sneering at us. They're overeducated. They're drowning in student debt. They're angry they have to pay their worthless student debt off. And so they're sitting here screaming at us, saying that we're racist and saying that that they love peace and we don't. And jihadists are stepping on their shoulders to launch physical bombs at the rest of us. You understand what a perfect metaphor this is? Okay, so these are 2 jihadists. They're like kids of Syrian refugees. Now, who did they actually bomb? Black cops. Blacks. That's who they bombed. Hardworking, middle-class blacks in New York. That's who they bombed. Because you can see the lit bomb that is filled. It is like a grenade filled with rusty nails, screws, and bolts. You can see these jackasses trying to run away from the cops, literally dropping bombs everywhere that could kill these officers. If these bombs were going to kill anyone, it wasn't going to be the free speech right-wing protesters. It was going to be the black cops, the middle-class black cops, literally the people that the left tells you that they're in support of. But you never heard anything about this. So that's why I take this. Some people were in my comment section being like, it was just a firework. It was just a little gasoline fire and a firework. No, dude, like just a month ago, we had a bomb that could have absolutely maimed or slaughtered hundreds of people. And what you could see in this protest was that there were at least hundreds of people around. It could have blinded, killed, maimed hundreds. It could have been the worst terrorist attacks since September 11th in our country if these bombs had gone off. It's all there on video. We know who did it. They're the dirtbag kids of Afghani and Syrian refugees, and this is how they thank us. And how does the media cover what happened yesterday? They call it fireworks set off outside of Federal Plaza. No, it was an explosive. This is the media says that this is a firework set off outside of the plaza. Really? Really? Let me play you the sequence of events, and then I'm going to make it like a little more scary for you. So, anti-ICE protester dumps fuel. This fuel includes multiple Molotov cocktails. Then they throw an improvised explosive device, which is the only way to actually describe this. So an explosive they throw into the fire. That explosive ignites and blows up. It could have been a pipe bomb. It could have been a jar bomb. You can see it blow up. Okay. And let's say it was a firework. People lose fingers, feet, their sight. People get harmed and maimed every single 4th of July by fireworks and firework accidents. It was still extremely dangerous. But I want to point to something that is far more important here, is this giant cart that they had. What the intended effect, and the reason why the libtard goes running back to his cart here after throwing the bomb, is because they wanted to create a diversion. So see, he goes running back to his little shopping cart here that has a firearm in it. They wanted to create an incident where all of the police responded to the fire. You see, they come out and they put out the fire, right? So you can see here in literal seconds, approximately 1 minute, officers come out and put out the fire. The intention here was to create, or literally run through the fire. The intention here is to draw out all the federal officers and then open fire on them and mass slaughter them. That's the goal. And no one in the media no one's covering this. Now, is there somebody who chickened out? Was there maybe somebody that could have been parked? I mean, these are civilian vehicles. Could there have been somebody that was parked here with a semi-automatic weapon that was waiting for a larger federal response? I mean, there was a large federal response. There was at least 30 federal officers standing in the street. They could have actually taken them all out. We've seen this before. This was what was supposed to happen in Butler. The point in Butler, nobody ever talks about this, but Thomas Matthew Crooks had all of these incendiary devices that was supposed to be set off remotely in his vehicle. That vehicle was supposed to go up in flames and create a massive diversion. Allow him to escape, allow him to potentially take out more federal officers, shoot more people. He was just firing into the crowd. He killed a member of the MAGA movement, Corey Comprator. Like that was the intention. The intention there was to create some massive chaos event and then mass slaughter everyone. We just found this out about the White House. Who's organizing all of this? Alex, grab me that. At the UFC event, there was supposed to be a massive chaos-causing improvised explosion where then a bunch of libtards would sit outside positioned with semi-automatic rifles, either on rooftops or in cars, and then they would just start slaughtering people. That was supposed to happen at the UFC. Can you please pop that up? Thank you. Actually, Klein, I got it. Here we go. The FBI, thank God, were able to stop this explosive drone plot targeting White House. 23 people have been arrested. They were going to target the UFC event. What they were going to do is target all of the people watching from the ellipse. And that was like, I don't know, tens of thousands of people. ALX was there. So anyway, the point is that like somebody is organizing all of this. And it's terrifying. And in a world that's very dangerous, the State Department has issued warnings, Americans living abroad and traveling abroad. Like, be careful. Iran is plotting terrorist attacks. Cuba is plotting terrorist attacks. Marco Rubio confirmed yesterday that Cuba is obviously the number one staging ground for far left-wing attacks on our country. Yeah, this is crazy. ALX said it took me 30 minutes just to get out of the crowd, even as he left early. ALX, how many people were there at the UFC watch event? 10,000? Or more than 10,000 on the ellipse? It would have been, you could have killed so many people. Anyway, they tried to pull the same thing yesterday in Manhattan at the federal building. That's what this is. Nobody's talking about it. The media is trying to downplay it. The media is saying somebody just set off fireworks and using a photo that makes it look like maybe somebody just set off a smoke bomb. That's not what happened. This is supposed to be a mass slaughter. ALX says there was almost 100,000 people on the ellipse. So just keep your head on a swivel. These people are animals. They're monsters, and they're not going to they're not going to give up power freely or easily. They're going to be violent. They've always been violent. Somebody who's prosecuted that violence is the great senator from the great state of Missouri, seems Senator Schmidt. Eric Schmidt was the former attorney general in the state of Missouri. He's absolute skullcracker of the left. I'm still kind of angry that Missouri has one seat for Democrats. I don't like that. Maybe we can talk about that. He's ready to join us live right now. The great Senator Eric Schmidt on the show to talk about fireworks yesterday at Federal Plaza. Here we go. Senator, I don't think you were at UFC at the White House, but like, I think I'm getting this right. Like the left is setting themselves up. They're training They're ready to like try and stage a mass slaughter event on America. Like they're ready to do it.
Yeah, I mean, these are Antifa tactics they've used. You were talking about what happened yesterday. Remember in Dallas, there was a similar kind of incident. What they're doing is they're drawing federal officers out, and then they have snipers or other people who are going to actually murder ICE agents or anybody that comes out of those federal buildings. This is like a tactic they've been using, and I think that one thing that's been made very clear, and Secretary Rubio gave a speech about this too, and I talked about it a year ago, the connectedness now of these organizations. It's much easier for them to be a network where they're sharing not just human resources, people connecting, but also tactics. Antifa, for example, was declared a domestic terrorist organization. I had wrote to the State Department to declare them a foreign terrorist organization. That's happened. Why does that matter? It allows us to go after the money now. So there's more tools for federal law enforcement to bust these networks up. And so you put that, Benny, lay that on top of the public opinion polls that are out there among liberals or those on the left, where 25% of them believe that political violence is justified, compared to just 3% of those described as very conservative. Now that's 3% too many, but that's not the same thing. That's not even close to the same thing. And then when you have, of that same group, over 50% of those on the left believe that murdering President Trump is at least somewhat justified. These are the times that we're living in. And you have this just almost decade-long obsession with President Trump. You see guys like this Piker clown, praising Mao. I mean, this is a very, very dangerous road, and it's not isolated, and it's not as small as people think. And so I think that you have to meet this with absolute strength. These people need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You're right about how the media covers this stuff. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they give these people cover, but they do. And anyway, it's very, and then look, you just look what happened to almost happened to President Trump 3 times. What happened to Charlie Kirk? I talked about this at a committee hearing. You could go through the last 2 years, the dozens and dozens of incidents that were politically motivated assassinations or assassination attempts. These folks are glorifying this Luigi dude, who killed an executive in cold blood. He's being glorified by some. You look at the reaction to when Charlie Kirk was murdered. These were teachers. These were like people who work as counselors. These are like professors who were like celebrating his death. I don't get it, but it's real. I'm glad you're highlighting it because people need to understand what it looks like.
So you're from the state of Missouri. And in the state of Missouri, people are like, wow, it's the middle of the Midwest. It's like a Trump plus 20 state. It's where Rush Limbaugh was born. And, it's got a supermajority right-wing government. Yet this happened like in St. Louis, in one of the nicest parts of your state, in like a beautiful neighborhood. I've been there a couple times. Like one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in all of America, actually. And the McCloskeys had to straight up defend their home from being burned to the ground. Eventually, Trump had to send in Secret Service to sit outside of their house to stop the mob from burning their home to the ground. It was one of the saddest moments I've ever seen in America. It was like, it really felt like we were losing the country. Yeah. And nobody was willing to use force to put this down. This isn't how you run a country. These aren't West. The West is predicated on mercy to the innocent and justice for the criminals. And this was the exact opposite of that.
Well, think about it. So Missouri is a constitutional carry state and a stand your ground state. I mean, maybe one of the most pro Second Amendment states in the country. And so what the McCloskeys did that day, and I was Attorney General at the time.
Please.
What happened was these were Black Lives Matter rioters who were they were actually on their way to the mayor's house. There was a white Democrat mayor in St. Louis at the time. They were on their way to her house. They harassed the mayor so much that she had to move out of her home. This was like at the height of crazy COVID. You can't protest unless you're protesting at, a Black Lives Matter event. Remember the public health official said, don't go outside unless you're going to join the Black Lives Matter protests and riots in the evening. That's okay. That's safe. And I think that's the moment where a lot of people were like, kind of this whole thing jumped the shark. But anyway, these people were there, height of the post, everything that was happening that summer. And they're going through this neighborhood, cut through to go to the mayor's house. And the McCloskeys are outside. And the image, of course, went around the world. They were perfectly justified under Missouri law to be out there with their handgun and whatever. I think I don't know if he had an AR or whatever he had, but on his front porch, totally justified. The Soros, think about this. At the time, she's gone now, but Kim Gardner, who was the Soros-funded prosecutor, didn't go after the rioters. She went after the McCloskeys. And so then we entered into the case saying, look, we have every Missourian has a right to defend themselves by a prosecutor threatening to prosecute somebody because they're exercising their Second Amendment rights. This would be a problem for the whole state. So there was a whole legal thing that happened. But that image, that moment, certainly told a very important story about what was happening in the country at that time. And anyway.
So how did you shut it down? I mean, first off, it was so depressing because this wasn't, this isn't some blue state, right? Where you would expect that this kind of stuff would just happen and nobody has any rights. This is a red state. So how did you shut it down? How did you end? What would be the tactic to end this? Right?
Look, as a former prosecutor, there's no substitute. You have to have prosecutors who are willing to enforce the law, right? That's what needs to happen. The problem that was happening in that time across the country in the wake of the George Floyd thing was that you had this terrible combination of prosecutors who got into those positions who were funded by George Soros, who ran on the platform of, we're not going to prosecute property crimes. We're not even going to prosecute violent crimes. And then people recognize that. We had criminals, when I was Attorney General, Benny, when they were getting picked up, because we had a strong relationship with the police, that we actually had assistant AGs in our office be cross-deputized as assistant U.S. attorneys. So we wanted to add capacity in St. Louis City for prosecution of federal crimes, right? Like carjackings and things like that. The sentences are much stiffer, and you had a U.S. attorney that wanted to go do that at the time, okay? So the criminals knew. They would tell the cop, they would ask the officers if they were being prosecuted under a state charge or a federal charge, because they knew the difference. They knew that if the feds were prosecuting them, they were going to go to jail. They knew if it was a state charge that Kim Gardner would have them out later that day. So it's, people respond to incentives and punishments, right? That's just, we're wired that way. So you have to have prosecutors who are willing to enforce the law. And so, what you see President Trump doing now with these U.S. attorneys across the country and going after fraud and all these other things, there has to be a commitment to the rule of law. And when you do that, guess what? Crime rates go down. People feel safer. They don't tolerate this nonsense. These whole, what they're calling now, they're calling, what are they calling them? The teen takeovers? Is that what they're calling them? The takeovers?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, it's a kind way of saying people are gathering to assault other people and, destroy their businesses. People need to be prosecuted, and there's no other. You can try to act like you have some other better solution and all these other sort of niceties that people say. There just simply is no substitute. If people are behaving badly, or they are violating somebody else's rights, or they commit a violent crime, you need to prosecute them and get them off the streets. That's the answer. So
if we found out a lot about Cuba yesterday and that they're planning on doing more of this, they would love nothing more. Yeah. And I think this is such an important point. President Trump's release last week of all of the intel files proved that BLM was an op by the Chinese, the Iranians. It proved that they poured hundreds of millions of, I don't know how much money they did. They poured this energy of the entire Chinese state was poured into fomenting BLM.
Yeah.
And creating these circumstances. And so this has all been an op. I don't think people quite understand that. And now anytime anybody brings up something like this, anytime anybody brings up Russia or whatever, it's dude, if you posted a black square, you were part of an Iranian or Chinese op. You were part of an op from foreign communists. And I think that should be a major black spot for these people. It should be a major hang your head in shame.
Yeah, and look, and then it also you had that meet this sort of very strange obsession the left has with this sort of like racialization of everything. Like even into our government under the Biden administration, you had, whether you have the critical theory, critical race theory, or the DEI stuff that was just their obsession, and so their belief, their fundamental belief of all of that was you divide every room by oppressor and oppressed, right? Which is not a Christian concept. It's not an American concept. But this is kind of the guiding light of the left for, again, like a 10-year period. And the book that I wrote a year ago, The Last Line of Defense, it starts out with, in November 2024, the fever broke. And I think that was the American people saying, we've had enough of this bullshit. Like, we're over it. We can't, it's not 2020 anymore, right?
Yes.
And so, but these people, to your point earlier, they're not going to give up easily. They know that they can sow seeds of division in this country. They do it primarily by race. The CCP, Code Pink, all these groups, they're funding this kind of activity in our country. We should be aware of it. Like, we should be aware of it, and we should do something about it. And, like, go after these networks, go after the money.
Yes.
Like these bricks, Benny, last point. These
Please.
Bricks don't just show up at these places at 6 o'clock at night on their own. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like
that's right.
Right. So
just really quickly here, because I know we're up against a hard out. What does this say about Cuba? You work very closely with the administration. I know you're very close with Marco Rubio. I know he released what seems to be like the manifesto on why communist Cuba, why that regime is rotted to the core, and the horrors they have wrought on our nation. What happens next in Cuba?
Well, I mean, it's on the brink. There's no doubt. Cuba's on the brink. You know what I actually really appreciate the most about all this in the conversation, and we were raising alarm bells of the Panama Canal and the Chinese controlling both ends of, with two ports on either end of that canal. You really get back to the core of American foreign policy for a very long time, which is this Monroe Doctrine, or you want to call it the Don Roe Doctrine now, a focus on the homeland and a focus on the Western Hemisphere. This is our backyard, right?
Yes.
This is our backyard. And so that's kind of at the core of how I view foreign policy. And then, of course, the rival that we have in China and what their designs are. And so I think, whether it was in Venezuela or now with Cuba, something's happening. You're seeing, by the way, in a lot of these countries, right-wing governments rising up. Which is a good thing. They're going to be much more friendly to the United States as for these leftist regimes that have dominated that part of the world. And by the way, USAID has been a disaster. I was proud to get rid of a lot of that ridiculous funding a year ago in that rescissions package. We should be doing more of that. We should be taking a hard look to make sure our hard-earned tax dollars of the guys swinging the hammer isn't going to fund and prop up some left-wing government in Central America.
Yes, I mean, it's amazing how that happens. Suddenly, all of Latin America swings right. The Spanish team is wearing "Make Spain Great Again" hats. I don't know if you saw that back in Spain. It's like unbelievable. It's like amazing what happens when you put the gates down and like where people naturally want to go. They want to be patriots and they want their countries to be strong, and they don't want their country to be left-wing communist cucks. Okay, I hope that doesn't happen in this country. A final word, Senator. How do we get the SAVE Act passed?
Oh, man, we got to spend the time. We have to spend the time. We have to be on the floor with it, make the Democrats defend their position on weeks on end. That's the key. That's the whole talking filibuster thing. That's the only way this is going to happen. And then you'll see, like at some point, 3 weeks in on a Sunday morning at 2 a.m., the Democrats will have a quorum call saying, I note the absence of a quorum, and we got to make sure we got 51 senators, Republicans, keeping that floor open for us to get this ultimately done. That's the way it's going to happen.
That's the way it's going to happen. Well, the Senate's a major mystery, man. Nobody's quite sure. Nobody's quite sure where Mitch McConnell is. Nobody's sure what's going on.
It is. Hey, listen, it is to me. If it makes you feel any better, it is to me as well. So.
Thank you, Senator. Godspeed. We appreciate your time this morning. Follow the Senator right here. See ya.
See ya.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. I was talking to the Senator. Man, he had a hard out at 10. He had a hard out at 10:30. Okay, it's 10:38. So look at that. He must love our show too. What a kind and generous man. He had to take a call. And that call was on a Patriot Mobile device. I have no idea if that's true. But Patriot Mobile, ladies and gentlemen, is our cell phone of choice. It is our phone that travels with us everywhere that we go. And they keep us connected because they're the only Christian conservative wireless provider in the world. They can give you peace of mind knowing that you are on the best connected network and that you're also not funding the terrorist left that wants to kill us. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Benny for a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Benny. Ladies and gentlemen, sign up today. I'm really glad that we have like a quick second here before our next guest, which is Congressman Riley Moore, who was targeted, I hear, in the terrorist attack that was supposed to mass slaughter people that went to the UFC 250 at the White House. Just a week ago, Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, and the entire administration hosted a forum on left-wing terrorism. And you need to hear the comments on this from Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller back to back. Let's go.
80% of radical violence is now driven by far left and anarchist actors. These are not abstract statistics. Americans have seen what those numbers mean. An all-out assault on our immigration officers, sniper attacks, explosives, armed ambushes, a transgender shooter opening fire on Catholic elementary school students as they pray, his gun marked with slogans like, "Where is your God now?"
Incredible.
A healthcare executive executed in cold blood in the streets. Multiple assassination attempts on a sitting president. And the murder of the greatest conservative activist of a generation. A man who happened to also be a husband and the father of 2 young children, shot and killed while speaking to a crowd of students. This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good. It is perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things, and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. This is what radical leftism is. It may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist or communist or anarchist or Marxist, but the fundamental character is always the same. It's always the same. It is a poisonous resentment cloaked in the language of equality and justice and liberation, an overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built, to wreck what is beautiful and what is right on behalf of people who are only filled with ugliness and have nothing else to offer the world. Through violence and through terror, they once again seek to impose their ugliness on all of us.
Oh, I love this. Oh, my gosh. That's my administration. It's like a chud-occupied government. This administration, I'm not sure if this is the clip where Stephen Miller goes in on it, but he's like, to a man, to a woman, these people. Oh, we're going to play the Stephen Miller clip for sure, Klein. Yeah. Keep him up. He says, to a man, to a woman, these people are hideous. They're deformed. They're ugly on the outside. They're ugly on the inside. Here we go.
If the leftist learns and observes that their violence and criminal activity helps and ultimately succeeds in achieving their desired political end, they will be endlessly emboldened. Here in the United States, we've seen a growing and deeply alarming increase in attempted assassinations against public figures. Most notably, of course, the multiple assassination attempts against President Trump, the successful assassination attempt against Charlie Kirk, many others. This is a fatal cancer to civilization. And the greatest risk that we have is that our institutions have grown too soft and too cowardly to be able to defend themselves against a mortal threat.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly the kind of clarity that we need. I'm sorry that, like, if I had known more about this, reach out to the White House. If I have known more about this, we should have live streamed this. I wish I could have attended in person. It's probably the single most important confab that they've thrown at the White House. To call out the instigation of left-wing terrorism. There is no such thing as right-wing terrorism. There isn't. You can't find a counterfactual to any of this. Again, again, I hate playing this game, but there just isn't a parallel to this. And this is the kind of stuff that happens every single day. This, by the way, is worse in every conceivable second of footage than anything that happened on January 6th. On January 6th, I can show you the protesters, by the way, is an American right, maintaining order by walking through the velvet ropes and taking selfies. I can show you them cleaning up their own trash. I can show you them clapping the backs of the police officers, posing with them, like obeying orders. Is this individual
Guys,
right here?
oh my God.
This individual is trying to mass slaughter federal officers. But Benny, there were people who were put in prison for harming federal officers. Oh yeah? I can show you numbers of those people that were members of BLM and Antifa. I can show you dead to rights that they were LARPing as MAGA supporters. I can put the paperwork directly in front of you from the federal filings. Don't tell me that there's a both sides problem. And this seems to happen every single week, including an event that I was at and my entire team was at, the UFC 250. Apparently, Congressman Riley Moore was at it as well. Riley Moore is set and ready. Let's have him chat a little bit about this. Welcome the Congressman from the great state of West Virginia. I'm not sure why I whispered West Virginia there, but maybe it's because I'm just so excited about how that John Denver song about your state was the entire stadium sung after every single Team USA victory in the World Cup. It was awesome. I never thought I'd hear 100,000 people singing "Take Me Home, Country Roads, West Virginia" in Seattle, Congressman.
You know, there is no state more American than West Virginia. So I think it just represents who we are as a people. And people should come visit if you really want a taste of America.
I found a taste of West Virginia that I couldn't tolerate. I got to tell you, but maybe I'm not man enough. I don't know. But when I went to West Virginia to go do a documentary on coal miners, they gifted me moonshine. There was a basket of homemade moonshine in glass bottles up in my room. And there's different flavors. And I was like, well, maybe I should try some of this. And I was,
I mean, it's the real stuff then. It's white lightning, you know, so it's coal miners and moonshiners. And by the way, next time you get it, a little trick is, look, if it burns blue, like you set it on fire, burns blue, you're good. Now, if it burns kind of gold, red, don't drink it. That's got some problems in it. So
I didn't actually set it on fire. I'll do that next time in my hotel room.
It's a good check, you know, for our folks. I'm sure this is all made legally. Got it.
I love that. Oh, way to go. The representative from West Virginia, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he's on to join the show. Can we get a round of applause, Klein? Yes, thank you. Moonshine. We should do moonshining with Representative Riley Moore. That I don't know what we were thinking, Congressman. We should have. That should actually be a series that we do.
Exactly. We could tour the different parts of the state, see what you like the most.
I would love that. Don't tempt me with a good time. You were at a good time. The UFC 250 event was unbelievable at the White House. They tried to kill us all. Did you know that?
Yes, actually, I wasn't there. And the reason I wasn't there is I was contacted by the feds a week prior to the event, alerting myself and other members of the West Virginia congressional delegation that we were on a list, a target list for assassination. And so we actually made the choice. They said, look, you can go if you want, but we would recommend that you do not. So I actually did not attend. Unfortunately, I watched it on TV. It looked amazing.
It's amazing. So was this the group that was trying to assassinate and mass slaughter people in a chaos event?
Yes, and so
some of them were from West Virginia, right? Yeah.
Yeah, one of them was from West Virginia, and then the first perpetrator that was found was from Ohio, which obviously we border, and so they've been in communication, the Ohio guy and the West Virginia guy, And they put out this list of the West Virginia congressional delegation, said these are targets that we need to go after. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But so, yeah, I decided, for safety of myself and my family in particular, we would stay home.
Of course. It's like dangerous. I would love to go do more man on the street stuff. We used to do a lot of man on the street stuff. And it started getting really dangerous. We would go out with our microphones and people would like come after us and they'd like recognize us and recognize the show. I don't know if it was organized. We all watched what happened to Charlie. Like, I'd love to do campus events and like stand out there and like take questions. But you have to actually start thinking through very, very severely. Like, wait a second, I don't have Secret Service, bro. Like, the president got shot in the head.
Yeah, look, I mean, the left is deadly dangerous right now. And, I take all these things serious. And I think I mentioned on your program before, I've had them show up to my church and protest me. And so there's no line that they won't cross in any of this. And I take it all very seriously. I've had them show up to my house. And, I've made very clear on local television, anybody who watches anything that I'm on, if you're on my property in a threatening manner, you're in the state of West Virginia, you're going to get shot. Yep. So just anybody watching, just let you know, we got castle doctrine in West Virginia, and you're putting your life in your own hands if you decide to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's like living in a red state. Although you work in DC. DC is the opposite. You have a duty to retreat. And that's why the guy got the hell out of DC. As soon as I had my firstborn child, I was like, whoa. I looked up these laws. Like, if somebody, when we had problems in our neighborhood, we're like dirt poor. And so we lived in the ghetto. That was where we could afford our first house, our starter home. And it was a very dangerous neighborhood. And we had somebody break into our house. We had people come into our house, but they were on drugs. There were there were shootouts on our block. I was like, so I got my firearms and licenses and everything. And I thought, okay, so I can defend myself now. And then I looked up DC law, and DC law is like, we'll charge you if you defend yourself from a home invader.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's a duty to retreat, which is, I mean, why do we have the Second Amendment?
What is it? Yeah,
it's not to retreat.
No, it's a duty to like you have to prove in DC. I couldn't believe this law. You have to prove in DC that you tried to evacuate your own home from the home intruder. You have to show cause that you were trying to escape your own house if somebody invades your house, tries to harm you and your family.
Yeah, and look, we have some of the best, I would argue the best, Second Amendment laws in the country in West Virginia, and we are one of the safest states in the country. And that's not by accident, right? I mean, home invaders or criminals or otherwise have to think about, I'm likely going to get shot if I enter this home when somebody's there. And that is correct. That's what's going to happen. And those cases are usually take about, couple hours, case closed, guy broke in, got shot. Yep, we're done.
It's amazing how that stuff doesn't happen in Florida. It's amazing how every time there's like a wave of Antifa violence or BLM violence, it ain't happening here, right? Not in these neighborhoods. Yeah, every home's an arsenal,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So how do we federalize that? Meaning, how do we put down left-wing terrorists from a federal level? And this is something that I think is as essential. I think that the left is looking down the barrel of, for lack of a better term, very bad losses into the future. I think they're going to be an untenable political part. They're going to be in a position where they just completely atomize. Instead of growing stronger, they're going to it's going to shatter and break down and splinter. And so I think they're going to get very violent. So how do we prevent this from interfering in the lovely lives of Americans?
Well, one of the things you can do, and we just did last week, was actually pass one of my bills on the House floor, which was a little complicated, but let me explain this real quick. What had happened with Elizabeth Warren and Amalgamated Bank, if you don't know Amalgamated Bank, it's a Soros-funded, backed financial institution. And what they wanted to do, they changed the merchant category code for firearms and ammunition. So what does that do? That creates a backdoor national gun registry through the financial institutions and also they wanted them to report what they deemed as suspicious activity. So I guess Wells Fargo is now going to determine when somebody buys too many guns, or Visa or MasterCard or what have you. And so the idea of this is that they could reject transactions at the terminal at a gun merchant as well. So my bill, which I first passed in the state of West Virginia, and then Florida followed us right after that. That's when I was state treasurer of West Virginia, was to ban changing the merchant category code. Guns and ammunition are coded just as sporting goods right now. Now, states like California, New Jersey, New York, and places like that, they are tracking the purchases of guns and ammunition. If you live in that state, they know what you have bought, they know how much you've bought, and they know where you got it, and they know what you have. My bill gets rid of that across the entire country and says we are not tracking the purchases of guns and ammunition. We're not creating a backdoor national gun registry that's controlled by the financial oligarchs of this country. That's not what we're going to do here. So we passed that in the House, and it's on to the Senate now. So that's what we're going to be working on. But that's one of the things, is that you don't want to wake up and these people have the levers of power, and it's like, we know exactly what everybody has, and we can go door to door now and say, oh, you bought too much ammunition, you bought too many guns, we don't like that kind of gun now. And this is a privacy issue, which is obviously constitutional, but it's also a Second Amendment issue. So it protecting the constitutional rights. But I don't disagree with you that, you know, the atomization of the Democrat Party is certainly underway. But I think if you look to Europe, specifically France, and the coalition that they have on the left there, it's the red-green coalition. And that's what they are building here now, is the red-green coalition, which is the communists and the Islamists coming together to form a bloc. And you've seen this throughout Western nations in Europe. That's currently what's happening here. If you don't believe me, go look at Michigan. What was the difference, by the way, in between Espaillat in New York and the woman that beat him? She had converted to Islam. He's a Dominican. She's a Dominican. They both speak Spanish. They both have left-wing views on immigration and every other issue. He was the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, but she had converted to Islam. So that, to me, I think is the new coalition for the left in this country.
Again, and while I think that's something very important that we need to bring attention to, I would be in favor of banning. I think we should absolutely ban immigration from all Muslim countries. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think anywhere where you have terrorist groups, Islamic terrorist groups, we just need to put a stop to it, because it's a direct threat to us. And I don't think that that's, I don't think that that's, you know, someone's going to say that's Islamophobic or whatever. I don't really care. You can call me whatever you want. What I'm trying to do, you can call me Mr. Safe. And what I'm trying to do is keep America safe. And if you have Al-Qaeda or Hamas or Hezbollah or whatever, if you have Islamic radical terrorist organizations in your country, you're not coming here. That's it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, listen, the purpose, you can read America's immigration law. Like, I'm on the side of the law. They're on the side of like absolute atomization of what it means to be an American. Like, the laws of our country are very, very clear about what the purpose of immigration is. And we've had massive immigration pauses throughout American history that have led to immense prosperity for our nation. Like a cooling down period where we had like too many people from too many different backgrounds here. And I think we're absolutely at that precipice. And there needs to be like a generational reset, I personally believe.
And there's always been, right? We've gone through different periods of immigration, and new immigration laws came in. We act like immigration policy in terms of who we're letting in and not letting in are like absolutes, like they're written into the Constitution. Just they're true forever. They're responding to certain periods of time in American history, and we're in a different period right now.
Totally. And unless you can prove that your culture is going to be harmonious and compatible with American culture, you shouldn't come here. Unless like if your country, I mean, my rule would be the 51st state rule. I wonder if you agree with this, Congressman, because you're from a nice, wonderful part of America. Like, if your country wouldn't make a good border state with West Virginia, you shouldn't come here. Like, we should not have immigration from that country.
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants to live next. Dude, the biggest left-wing don't want to move to Somalia. They don't want Somalia as their next door neighbor, right? Or Yemen, okay? Yeah. Like, they don't want these countries, or Iran or whatever. Like, they don't want these countries as their neighbors. They're failed states, okay? And so why would we be bringing in people from Pakistan if you don't want to live if you don't want to live there? You're bringing the nation here by doing that. I think that's like an insane. That's a rule that our great grandparents followed, which is like, no, we actually want to live next to people that are harmonious with our culture, language, and religion.
Well, absolutely. And if you don't think that Western culture and values are incompatible with Islam, go take a look at the experiment of Turkey, right? Ataturk started the Turkish Republic after World War I, a secular society that was being held in check by the military to ensure that Islamists didn't take over. Guess what? They still did. It lasted for a little while. That experiment went on for a little while, and it failed. It failed. And everywhere you have tried this, it has failed. And where they have gone, it has failed. You have to comport to their values, to their culture. We have to have Sharia compliant lending. We got to do all these other, but we don't have to. We don't have to do any of these things. And someone made the intentional immigration decision that, look, take the continent of Africa, for instance. And I know we've talked about this before, but it's always on my mind. Who made the decision that, you have all these Christians in Nigeria who are being slaughtered, and we say, yeah, maybe we don't need so many of them. How about the guys from Somalia? Remember Black Hawk Down? Yeah, let's get those guys and bring them into the country. So, not that I'm saying I want a massive immigration from Nigeria or otherwise, but how do you somebody make that decision?
No, totally. I mean, you're exactly correct. I don't know why our immigration policy is treated like a religion. Like, this isn't a religion. Like, our immigration policy is one of the very, very lowest possible things on the priority list that I have. Like, it's one of the last things we should think about is like bringing in new people, because there's so many people that are right-born American citizens by birth and right that are here that are totally forgotten about, that are totally neglected, and that can't get the pothole fixed in front of their street. And like, we betrayed those people, and we betrayed so many Americans. Like, we just don't need more. We just don't need to bring in the problems of the world. Like every citizen in the world doesn't have a right to be an American. We can barely provide for the people that are actually here. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my take. I always love talking about this with you, because most members of Congress go to the completely, neutered, like, we are a nation of immigrants. And it's like, not these immigrants, okay? Like, not Somali immigrants. No, we're not,
Yeah, well, and look, West Virginia is the epitome of this. No one's paid the price of this immigration policy and globalization and all these other things that have been pushed on the state of West Virginia, where our folks have been there. Totally. I'm a 7th generation West Virginian.
Unbelievable.
I mean, we're talking about people who've been in West Virginia for well over 200 years.
Yep.
And, and this is why and I know this seems separate, but it is related. The H-1B visa program, this thing drives me insane. So, by the way, securing the southern border is a great thing, and it's something that I 100% support, and I'm so happy that we've done it. But when you're talking about people coming from countries that have terrorist groups in them, this Muslim migration that we're having in the country, it's legal. This is legal immigration that is bringing people in. And the H-1B visa program that is replacing American workers, it needs to be eliminated. H-1B visa, OPT, STEM OPT, legal immigration, in my view, in many regards, is more dangerous to American society in our future than illegal immigration, to be honest with you. I really do think that.
Young people are waking up to this. Young people are waking up to this. Do you think that we're reaching a point that we are going to be able to actually stop these programs and shut down these programs?
I mean, from my part, I'm going to keep beating the drum on it, because you go look, and I know we all kind of fixated on it for a moment, but people need to stay on this. What happened over there at Xbox at Microsoft, where they lay off thousands of workers and then apply for thousands of H-1B visas. The idea behind this program is, we can't find workers who are qualified to do these jobs. Now, that's not what this is about. This is about bringing in cheap foreign labor, putting them on an H-1B visa. And that, by the way, most of these are on the pathway to citizenship. And most of them start in the OPT program where they are getting education. And so they're in our universities and working. And by the way, when they're in OPT, they're not paying Medicare taxes, the employer's not paying payroll taxes. So they get the tax benefit, the employer does. Then they're on H-1B, then they're on a green card. And next thing you know, they're in Dearborn, Michigan, electing whoever up there. So, I mean, this doesn't make any sense what we're doing here.
Yeah.
You've seen there's 100 million people in the United States right now who are currently not working. You're telling me that we don't have any computer scientists or engineers in that 100 million people in America? I don't believe that. We have the best people on the face of the planet here, and it's a corporate handout by the government. And this is not free market. This is not the free market. This is corporate handout so we can undercut the wages of all of our workers who have been working so hard to get the education that we've been telling them they need to get. And next thing you know, they wake up and they're a barista at Starbucks with $150,000 worth of college debt.
And the largest Hindu temple in the world is being built in Texas, right? In Frisco. It's like, yeah. It's like, it is actually,
Majority of the H-1B visas, by the way.
I do agree. This is going to get clipped by Media Matters. I do totally agree with systemic institutionalized racism. It's the H-1B program. Like, yes, there is systemic and institutionalized racism. It's the H-1B program. That's exactly what it is. Because we know precisely what happens when American workers are mass replaced by Indian workers. We know exactly what the route is and what the pathway is for that fraud. And it's actually India's foreign policy. This is India's state policy for the conquest of the West, and it's already happened in Canada. It's already like wholesale happened in Canada. Total and complete replacement of the population with the assisted suicide of the federal government in Canada. They've killed 100,000 native-born Canadians and replaced them, and they've done it through their own version of an H-1B program there. And so, yeah, it must stop. We have to end it. Like, it would be my life's mission, actually, to end H-1Bs. I see absolutely no reason.
I'm totally with you. We need to get rid of it. And I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's totally counterintuitive. Yep. I mean, so you think about it like this. We go tell everybody after the globalists send our jobs overseas to these other countries, manufacturing jobs, blue collar jobs. They say, you guys need to learn how to code. Oh, hey, by the way, the coding jobs, those are gone now too, because we're bringing everybody in on an H-1B visa because we don't want to pay you what you're asking for. The American worker is the only worker in the world that has to compete with labor from all over the world inside their own borders.
Exactly correct. Imagine what a future we could have if we actually ended these programs that undermine the actual Americans that support them. It would be in a government that actually like looks at the American citizen first instead of viewing ourselves as king of the globe. All right. Like it'd be nice. It'd be really nice to have a lot of Riley Moores in Congress. Let's do that. Everybody support Riley Moore. You can follow him right here. You can follow him right here on X. Somebody who is clear-eyed about the problems of America and how to fix it for Americans. And it's refreshing to hear. Thank you, Congressman. Godspeed. I'll see you in West Virginia for our moonshine tour.
Hey, let's do it. Thanks, Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a barn burner. If you have barn burner days like that, and if you have stressful days, I can recommend enough Bon Charge. Bon Charge is how I relax at the end of the day. It is a sauna blanket or sauna mask. It's very good for you. As you can see here, I work inside a little black box all day. Sometimes I don't even see the sun, and I hate that. But hey, campaign season is right around the corner. Make sure that you are getting that delicious red light that your body so desperately craves, especially in the winter months. Right now, it's nice and sunny outside most days. But ladies and gentlemen, this is how you stay rested, refreshed, relaxed. Right before bed is where I use mine. Doesn't matter when you use it, but ladies and gentlemen, it's what your body needs. Bon Charge ships worldwide. All products are HSA and FSA eligible, pre-tax savings, plus free shipping on every single sauna blanket and a 12-month warranty. Go to boncharge.com/Benny. Use the coupon code Benny to save 15%. That's boncharge.com/Benny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of something refreshing and relaxing, let's talk children's books with Rand Paul's wife, Kelley Paul, who joins the program for the first time live right now. Kelley Paul, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Benny. It's great to be with you.
So I want to talk about your children's book, but I'd like to end on that note. I want to begin on a very different note. I hope you don't mind, because I witnessed something happen to you that was one of the worst things I've ever seen happen in all of my time in Washington, D.C., maybe the worst thing. I witnessed a left-wing mob attack you outside of the White House after the 2020 presidential speech for Donald Trump for the RNC convention. You were headed back with your husband, across the street. And this mob, like, straight up attacked you. You had to be saved. Like, it was like people were hitting and, like, attacking you and going after you and your husband. It was, like, insane. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is like a famous senator and his wife. They'd run for president. And this is crazy. And we're seeing a lot of that right now sort of reemerge in the streets. What's your reaction? What was your reaction to that? How do we prevent that from happening more in our streets?
It was absolutely horrific. It was the most terrifying night of my life. I thought that they were going to kill us. I really did. They were throwing liquids at us, screaming the most horrific things in our faces. We were surrounded for almost 9 minutes. A lot of it was live streamed, and that is how long it took for reinforcements to come. We actually ran up to 2 police officers who were standing on a corner. But at that time, 2020, they were told not to react, not to do anything. And so we had these Antifa and BLM crazies literally saying that they were going to F us up. They were going to effing kill us. They threw liquids at us. One of the ladies that we were with, she lost her shoe. They threw it into the crowd. I mean, it was getting so ginned up that Rand and I always say any minute we thought someone was going to throw something, and then as soon as we hit the ground, we would be kicked. And it wasn't until about 5 police officers with those big heavy duty bikes came and kind of created a moving phalanx to push people off of us that we made it into our hotel.
Did anybody ever get prosecuted for this?
No. And, there was actually video of one of those thugs punching a police officer on video. He was released that night. No charges. It was sick. It really was. I lost a lot of faith that night, believe me, in our law and order. I just think that there was so much pressure on the police not to react because, it was a politically charged moment. And let's face it, it's Washington, D.C. So if you were a Republican or you were on the side of Donald Trump, they weren't going to do anything.
You've seen a lot of violence. You've seen attacks on your husband, like physical attacks. It's been horrible. You guys keep steady on, right? And, your husband's, you and as a family are doing God's work. I say your husband, but I'm married. I've been married for 10 years. Like, I couldn't get where we are. We couldn't do that. I couldn't do this unless we were doing it together, right? My wife and my family. And so it really is like a family unit that keeps these things moving forward, right? Same thing with the president and his kids and his family.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I always tell people, I don't know how anyone does it in politics if they don't have a spouse that's, out there with them and supporting them and what they do, because it can be very lonely. And as you know, it can be very isolating. And you also draw, just hateful attacks.
Totally. But like, your husband's going stronger than ever. I guess he's going to get Fauci in the chair next week. Like, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. July 29th. And Fauci's attorneys say that he's coming in. So we're hopeful that will happen. Rand was really at one time in 2020, the only person calling him out for his lies and was viciously attacked by the media for that. But he was the truth teller in 2020, even when he had to stand alone to say, look, this virus did not come from a wet market and Fauci has lied and it was engineered using our tax dollars, through a pass-through at EcoHealth. And I'll never forget Rand sitting there with the NIH number of the grant, and Fauci just lied to his face, saying that, this was not for gain of function.
You have a beautiful children's book out, but I think maybe the predicate to all of this is perhaps the harm that was done to children during that era, the era that you were being attacked in the streets, the brain rot era where they masked all of our children. Where they went straight at the heart of parental rights and the way that we, like, children breathing fresh and free air. You remember, Kelley, when they shut down the playgrounds, like boarded up the playgrounds so that kids couldn't play on playgrounds?
Yeah. They put police tape around playgrounds, around hiking, trails. They filled skate parks in with sand. I mean, the harm done to children during that time and teenagers, the isolation, and we're still seeing the repercussions of that. We see our, test scores just absolutely plummeted. Levels of depression, anxiety, substance abuse, all skyrocketed. It was a horrific thing to do. And as Rand told Fauci at the time, he's like, we are not seeing this virus be dangerous to children. Right. And Fauci completely sort of tried to divert it to talk about random things like Kawasaki syndrome. And it was all fear. It was all fear and it was all control.
Being a parent is hard enough, Like it's difficult enough without the federal government coming in and just completely making it even worse. The federal government gives almost no benefits. You're a mother of 3, right? They give like practically no benefits or incentives to have a family. It is, costly. It's costly in your time. It's clearly the greatest thing you can ever do. It's God's first commandment to go be fruitful and multiply. But it's like hard enough to do it in this country, to have like kids in a family, and to have people like Fauci, like shoving, like making us wear masks, to have, sorry to go off on this, but like my wife, she was giving birth to our first child in Washington, D.C. We were still living there. And the nurse, instead of like attending to my wife's needs during childbirth, was trying to forcibly put a mask on my wife who was in active labor. I had to live through that. I had to witness that, Kelley.
Oh, absolutely horrific. Yeah. I mean, people went crazy. Rand was actually thrown off of YouTube for saying the true fact that masks don't work. Surgical masks, cloth masks will not stop a microscopic virus from transmitting. And, so he was called a purveyor of disinformation for that, even though everything he said is now completely acknowledged to be true. And even Fauci privately would acknowledge it was true. So they did that to your wife. I had a dear friend who lost her mother to breast cancer at the time, and her mother didn't even have COVID, but they wouldn't let anyone be by her bedside. I mean, people lost their minds. And I think that there needs to be, more repercussions for what happened during COVID. I absolutely agree.
So you have a book out. Good night, little American. Good night, young American.
Yes.
Bedtime journey through America's stories. Maybe like a palate cleanser here, like a resetting of the table, perhaps, for the nightmare that our children have been through in this. And I guess I have 2 COVID babies, right, that were born sort of in the COVID era. And this looks like an absolutely beautiful book. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm going to send them to you because I know you have 4 littles. So I just got your address from our communications director. So I'm going to be sending you some books. So they were inspired by our grandchild. Rand and I have 1 grandchild. And it's just such a wonderful experience to get to relive babyhood and toddlerhood all over again. And one day last summer, our son and daughter-in-law were over for dinner, and our daughter-in-law is very conservative, and she's like, I'm tired of all these woke baby books. We need some patriotic baby books. We need unity and pride in America. You should write something. And that night we kind of played around with names at dinner, and I came up with Good Night, Little American. And that's the board book for babies and toddlers. And it's lyrical, soft nursery rhymes, but patriotic. George Washington's in there, and Thomas Jefferson, and the important messages that are, in our Constitution and in our Declaration, that our rights come from our Creator and not from government. And I think it's never too early to make sure that children understand and know that. And then the children's book, which is for ages 4 to 8, is a more involved story. In that one, a little boy is celebrating the 4th of July with his mom and dad, and he's asking his dad, what's it all about? What does this mean? And his father tries to explain the Declaration of Independence to him and a little bit about the revolution. And that night he goes to sleep and he dreams all of American Revolutionary history. So he and his dog go on a grand adventure, and he meets Sam Adams, and he's at the Boston Tea Party, and he makes friends with Paul Revere, and he goes on the Midnight Ride. And of course, he crosses the Delaware with George Washington, and he's there when the Declaration is signed, and he runs up and rings the Liberty Bell. And writing it, I realized our revolutionary history is so visual. It is such an amazing adventure. And I want kids to understand it, to be proud of it, and to be excited about being an American.
Yes, that's true. That's you bring up such a wonderful point. It is so visual. It's so wonderful to see movies like Young Washington, to see us sort of rediscover the American Revolution. America 250 was really fun celebration. It's like it was neat to sort of see the reestablishment maybe of a media ecosystem, whether we have permission from Hollywood or not, or the major book publishers or not, that actually tells American stories. People are starving for that.
They really are. I was excited to see Young Washington be such a huge hit in the theaters. I haven't seen it yet, but some of my kids have, and I can't wait to see that. Also, my books are published by Skyhorse, and Eric Metaxas has an amazing book on the American Revolution that I think was hit #1. So I think people are hungry for our stories. They're tired of our founders being sort of denigrated as simply colonizers or enslavers or all of these things, when really, I like to say they were the original civil rights heroes. I mean, think about what they did at a time when everyone accepted the divine right of kings. They challenged that. They challenged hereditary rule. They were the first people to take Enlightenment ideas and turn them into a tangible form of government by the people, for the people, and to say, no, your rights are inherent. They come from your creator, and they are not given to you by the government or by any king. That was a radical and brave thing to do in 1776.
It's really sad that we've gotten so far away from that. And it's people like your husband that actually keep us back onto the course. He would have been I don't know what he'd look like in a wig, but he'd be he would fit right in. I think if he had a flux capacitor and a DeLorean, I think he'd fit right in during the American Revolution. The Kelley Paul, you can find her book here. It's the Amazon link. You can see it. It's a beautiful tale. Good night, Little American and Young American. Age appropriate for your kids. You can pick them up today. And Godspeed. Thank you for helping create culture. I think conservatives need to do more of this, obviously. And stop just complaining about it. Yeah, we can go out and create ourselves, right?
Indeed. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Kelley.
Thank
Godspeed.
you so much, Benny.
Godspeed.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Do we have Rand Paul in a white wig? Let's see if we can AI that. Jamie, AI that. See if we can AI it. Well, let's see. Let's see if we can do it by the end of the show. We have 2 more minutes in the show. That's your time. Okay, cool. Link in the description if you're want to go pick up the book. And let's head on over. Will the SAVE Acts become law? Here's our poll of the day. Uh-oh. I don't like it. 11%. I don't like it. 11% chance. No. Is a buy right now. I want the SAVE Acts to become law so bad. I don't think we've ever pushed for anything harder on this program except for President Trump's victory in 2024. So keep believing, though, patriots. Keep on believing. Okay? God has called us by name. He knows our name. He knows our purpose. He knows where we're from. He created us. Ladies and gentlemen, our verse of the day, getting to the very heart of it all, right here from Psalms. Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. There are weak people in this country. There always has been. They need leaders. They need deliverers. We can use the power of Christ to do that. We can use the power of our Lord and Savior to make America new again. I think that we are on our way to I think we could have 1,000. I think we could have 1,000 years of American empire. Wow, that actually does work. Holy smokes. This one. Wow. This is Rand Paul in a wig. This is Rand Paul as a founding father. Kara, why don't you go ahead and send that to Kelley Paul and see what she thinks about it. I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out from the wife. I think it works. I mean, honestly, that's pretty good. All right, Danny, put that one up. That's pretty. That's a man of me. We should have brought this up for her. Next time she's on, we'll bring it up. God says, go and protect. Go and protect the weak. Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue them. Rescue them. Use our strength and rescue them from the hand of the wicked. The hand of the wicked has always been there. It's eternal. It's ancient. It's from the original days. And it is up to us to use our strength in order to save those who are innocent and weak. I think about my children. And that's what we're doing this show for. That's what we're fighting for. Fight with us. March on to our assured victory. It's your boy, Benny. See ya.
The truth gon' be faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies. Watch the truth cascade with the warrior's heart. This man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies. Watch the truth cascade with the warrior's heart. This man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.